Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Game Logic from the Rounding Off Infinity Gaming channel on YouTube, the E2KG network. Nope, that's not the right control. I meant to mute the YouTube, not myself. Welcome back to another episode of the Enough to Keep Going Games Podcast, your weekly games podcast, the People's Podcast, as I sometimes call it. This is episode number 248 for the 26th of June in the year of our gaming 2022. With me, as is often the case, I have my co-host here, Mr. Towmaster99. How you doing, Tow?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to get things started off tonight. So tonight is an end of the month show, and so we have our PickZ roundup. So at the beginning of each month, we give ourselves a gaming assignment for the month that is topical, thematic. The gaming assignment for this month was it's June without E3, but with lots of game announcements. Summer Game Fest, IGN Summer of Gaming, Microsoft Showcase, along with others, all promise lots of new games and returning IPs. Choose an IP, genre, or game with a specific mechanic that you hope to see connections to during all the game announcements. Play it and discuss why it should be revisited or returned to. By the time this report occurs, we will know if there's a game announcement that connects. If there is, talk about that and how. If not, talk about why there should be. DBQ Hams unfortunately could not make it tonight. He is seeing John Williams concert tonight, so that's a big deal. And we said, dude, that's like a bucket list item. Do not sweat trying to get back for the games podcast. So Tao, I will let you start off with your gaming homework assignment report.
Yes, so I picked Injustice 2. This is the DC fighting game from NetherRealm Studio, the makers of the Mortal Kombat series. I actually did play through, I believe I beat one. I can't remember. It was so long ago. I think that originally came out in the 360, which I believe Injustice 2 did also. So, and I was playing with through the backwards compatibility on the Xbox, and it's a solid game. I mean, I always like these games. They always do really great work. The NetherRealms on Mortal Kombat Injustice 2. But not only that, not only a solid fighting game, but it's a pretty good story mission that you get to play through. Now, when you're doing the story missions, it's kind of more just like you're watching, a cutscene, and then it kind of like turns into like just a normal the fighting match. So it's not it's not like it's a fully 3D world that you're going through. It's just kind of fighting matches you go through, but they're fun. I mean, I don't mind sitting through cutscenes and stuff like that, and they're very well done, well acted, well scripted, and all that. Excuse me. And the Injustice series, I guess I can spoil it because I mean it's the second one anyways. So this is where the Joker kills or makes Superman kill because he gave him some kind of like weird potion or whatever, or some kind of dust that he threw on him, kind of made him see different things, and he ends up killing Lois Lane, and then he goes on a rampage and kills the Joker. So this is the second. That was in the first game. So now in the second game, there is a Brainiac invasion. So you're kind of going through that storyline, trying to figure out what's going on, and some other characters are introduced. Obviously, we haven't seen in the past, but I played this because there was rumors going around that there might be not a new Injustice. They already said that they're not working on any kind of Injustice game supposedly right now, but I mean obviously that could be just a smokescreen. But there is, after that was squashed, and then of course there was rumors that there's a new Mortal Kombat going around, but still nothing has come of that. Like we haven't heard anything from NetherRealm or Warner Brothers, because I think they're the publishers of NetherRealm, or own them actually. I believe also. So unfortunately, we haven't heard any news, any fighting game news, at least for either Mortal Kombat or Injustice, other than them saying they're not going to do it. But I was kind of hoping that we get something at least by now, because it's the end of the month, and we haven't heard anything. So I don't know if they're just, because of everything, the way the world is now, it's just taking extra long for them to get get through the development. And maybe they just don't want to show anything yet, which is smart, I think, as we've seen with some games lately. But hopefully we'll hear something soon. And like I said, it's a solid fighting game, and like I said, the story is awesome. So I mean, I like DC, and Superman is one of my favorite heroes, so it's not a big deal. But it's just kind of like those. I guess not what if. What do they call them in DC? Elseworlds, I believe,
Yeah,
or something like that.
Elseworld.
Yeah, so yeah, that was my choice.
Very cool. Yeah, I played Injustice 2, maybe not when it first came out, but I guess on I must have gotten it through PlayStation Plus, I think, is where it came through. And so
Yeah,
I had a really great time playing it. And I appreciate, like you said, that Elseworld storyline. You had to suspend disbelief a little bit for like Superman taking on like Harley Quinn and things like that. But
oh
you know,
yeah,
it's comic books, so no big deal.
yeah,
But yeah, I had an awesome time playing it. Very similar to the recent Mortal Kombat games that that studio has done, where it's a movie. And in fact, I think what a lot of us said is when we played that, we were like, this should be like one of the DC cartoons because say what you will about the DCEU, the live action films, and the soup sandwich that that thing is, Ezra Miller. Their cartoons are way better than Marvel animated. And
yeah,
so, a lot of us had always said, they should take this Injustice and turn it into an animated, and they did. So, uh, yeah, pretty awesome game. Glad you got a chance to play it. Did you play the whole storyline through?
no, I haven't finished. I actually had started it, which I completely forgot. I actually already started it at some point, and then I just kind of picked up from where I left off. So I was still near the beginning of the game, though. So that's what it seemed like. So, but yeah, I definitely want to finish that since I went through the first one, and I beat. I believe I beat 9. I beat Mortal Kombat 9. I didn't beat 10, and then I beat the newest one when it had come out. Well, when it came out on Switch at least, because that's where I got it. So yeah, they're like I said, that they do some pretty good scripts and stuff. So and it's very well acted. So and I think they in the last Mortal Kombat. I'm not sure about the Injustice 2 because I didn't go back and look at the actors, but I believe like one of the bigger like voice actors was Johnny Cage, and I can't remember which of the like I'm trying to remember the guy who does like Uncharted and all these other. They
Yeah,
always pop on.
I think Troy Baker. Troy
Yeah,
Baker or Nolan North, one of the two of them.
yeah, it was one of those two. I can't remember which one, but I'm pretty sure he did Johnny Cage in the last one,
Right.
at least in the last one, maybe
Yeah.
in the whole series. But yeah,
Yeah, that's what I remember too.
it's good. Yeah,
Yeah, it was definitely worth. I would definitely say, as another comic book guy like I am, I would definitely say it's definitely worth playing it all the way through and see that. And I appreciate the YouTubers out there who have gone through those Mortal Kombat games as well as Injustice and like taken captures of like all of the cutscenes and like strung them together and edited
uh,
them into a movie. Um,
yeah,
those are awesome.
yep.
For me, what I've been doing, as I've been talking about the last few weeks, is I am kind of off of the narrative story driven cinematic near linear wide path format game and or open world games that fall into that shtick. And I have gone kind of I won't say hardcore, but definitely super focused on online multiplayer PvP kind of games. And so that is what I was looking for out of this summer show. I kind of 2 months ago coming into the show, I would have been kind of looking for the same normal fare, kind of wondering what Xbox and PlayStation were going to put on their platforms in terms of big story-driven games, with the hopes that those games would be cross-platform or would eventually come to PC since I'm PC only now. But over the last month, I've kind of said I don't care about those games and that type of content. I am doubling down now on Halo Infinite and Call of Duty. And this additional game that I've now put in the mix, Apex Legends, which we talked a few months ago. I have just never. I mean, this game landed at its core as a battle royale. I am not a big battle royale fan, but in particular, I've never been good at Apex Legends. There are some severe game mechanic tactical problems for me. Like the range of the engagements is really long. It is virtually impossible for me to pick out a target on the horizon, and so on and so forth. So, but you mentioned to me a few months ago that they had instantiated an arena mode, and so I had decided that I wanted to go in and try that out. That might make it approachable. The arenas are still very big. It is not like this is Rust or like the new German whatever the house map or whatever on Call of Duty Vanguard. These are not CQB style engagements. They're long range engagements. They are bigger than Halo maps, right? In terms of total surface area, except maybe like maybe the very largest Halo maps like Behemoth or Catalyst. Maybe they're similar to that, close, but I still feel like they're significantly bigger. Um, I've got to learn them, right. I finally started picking up right on the geometry. It's most of the maps are very symmetric, and so kind of like in that two towers approach of Quake and Unreal Tournament. Your side of the map that you're going to is the same as the other. Lots of them have big central geographic features, like a tower, or similar to like Turbine in Halo Infinite. And so I started playing that a lot this weekend. Um, doing long sessions. There are dozens of weapons. It's a lot to learn. Like this is I I dive into the written literature online about these games mainly as a matter of kind of finding out some of the deep under the covers kind of nuanced details. But like it was absolutely mandatory for me to do so with Apex Legends. There are dozens of weapons. Not all of them are good. Some of them differ significantly. Um, the way I play the game, I've found, what I like about the game, and what I like about seeing kind of all of these different games as I play them is they each do something different, and they each have different tactical implications in the way their mechanics and their features work. One of the things is just the speed of motion. Like there is no outflanking in Call of Duty Vanguard. Like that game happens so fast, it's like a cartoon, and the engagements you get in are over in microseconds, and you're gonna win your 1v1 or you're not. And I don't even think that there's like a huge advantage on the smaller maps to like running around in packs. Like it's just the engagement's gonna go down and it's gonna be whatever it is. In Halo Infinite, there is sometimes a good effect from trying to outflank, but it is very diluted from the fact that Halo Infinite is so slow in its motion. It's very deliberate. It's not as floaty as it used to be, but it's still you're not moving around at a high rate of speed. And so when you hear an engagement going down in front of you and you make the attempt to flank, 50% of the time the engagement's over before your flanking maneuver is complete, and by the time you show up at the fight, if your team has died, it's just you showing up to take on three guys, right? So the flanking maneuvers have to be like very carefully chosen, and if you miss a mantle, right? If the flanking maneuver requires a mantle like the commercial district does on New Mombasa, like you're not going to complete the flanking maneuver. Like that loss of like that split second, that fraction of a second, is gonna cause you to not make the flanking maneuver in time. Flanking maneuvers are a heck of a lot easier to make on Bazaar. I tend to miss mantles, much less than. But on New Mombasa, your mantling often has to be at an angle because things aren't the vertical features aren't stacked necessarily right below a ledge that you need to climb up, and they're off at an angle. So it makes a difference. One of the things I really like about Apex Legends is I feel like Apex Legends actually benefits a lot from flanking maneuvers. Um, I don't know if you remember playing like Ghost Recon, the original Ghost Recon on the PC. It was lots of outdoor environments. There were very few instances of close quarter battles. You were often having to I ran around with my NVGs on right in broad daylight just because I needed something kind of extreme to be able to pick out people, but in background, because when people have camouflage on out in the day, at least in that video game, you can't pick them out. So it's kind of similar to this. Engagements take place at a very long range and it's open areas, but I find that thank goodness people ping in this game. People don't ping enough on Halo Infinite. They don't ping enough on Call of Duty Vanguard. It's super helpful when people do. When your team locates the opposing forces, I find that what I do is because I'm just not really great at those long range engagements, I go for the flanking maneuver. Um, and in particular, right, I can't remember how many there are, but there's something probably along the lines of like 12 or 18 different heroes. And so champions. And so I play right now. I play Wraith. One of the things I'd read is like don't try and play like every single hero. Like focus on one and learn that one. And so I play Wraith, who has the ability to reposition quickly via her phase tunnel ability or whatever. And so I find that what I often do is I often use that as an escape maneuver. And when I absolutely have to, I use it to quickly get on an enemy's flank or around behind them. One of the things it took me a while to notice is she does leave an effect trail when she does that. So I don't know if you've played Destiny 2, but one of the later Destiny 2 enemies that were introduced, the Scorn, they do a similar kind of thing, but they leave a trail. So you can often just like look right at them as they like phase out and just wait for them to pop up where they are and then just kill them. Um, so there's a little bit of that can happen, and one of the tactical implications also is when you pop out of phase, it takes you a split second to raise your weapon because you phase with your weapon holstered. And so if a person's watching you just waiting for you to come out of phase, you're going to be dead often if you just come out before you can raise your weapon. And then things like, raising a machine gun takes a fraction of a second longer than raising a pistol, right, or a shotgun. So there are things like that. But I'm starting to kind of figure that out. Wraith is a good character for me to play with because, like I said, I try to do that repositioning more than anything, just because I'm not as good in a long range fight. I am starting to. I think one mistake I maybe made is I because assault rifles are the most or the best weapons in Call of Duty. I went into this game saying, okay, I'm going to start with assault rifles, because I assumed that was not the best thing to do. So now LMGs are much better at long range engagements. And so I've shifted over to using the LMGs. I don't really know. I assume people have to be able to wield the SMGs well. Otherwise, I'm like, I don't know why in the world you would use an SMG. Other than like as a secondary weapon for instances where you do get close to the enemy or you kind of need to push. Um, I am better at close range combat, so I do tend to push more. So when I'm engaged, I am kind of like the Fortnite effect, right? Where I would kind of like really bird dog people if I saw them after the initial jump, because it was better for me to get on top of somebody in the early stages when we don't have super powerful weapons, because other people were better at scavenging than I was, but then like in later engagements I was like, okay, that's not the time for me to like be super aggressive. So but with Apex Legends, I'm not as gun shy about getting in close with someone, and so I often take a shotgun, or I just use the native secondary weapon that they give you. Um, so yeah, it's been fun. I started off, not doing great, but I'm pretty quickly acclimated to it. One of the matches that I had, which is probably the most phenomenal match that I had over the weekend, was there for whatever reason we were playing a match. One guy got downed, and I guess he was maybe aggravated that nobody came and got him. But I was like, dude, you went down in the middle of a smoke screen with like two enemies around you. I wasn't going charging in there to try and revive you. So he quit in the middle of that round, like after he got knocked. So we went on for 2 or 3 rounds, and it was the two of us versus the three of them. We actually won those 3 rounds of 2v3, and then the third person from their side dropped. I don't know whether that person felt it was unfair or whatever. But then it was 2v2, and in the last, and we went. I don't know exactly how arena mode works, but it's not just by winning a round. I think scores are tallied, and I think you have to win by a certain amount, because we kept going beyond like the normal round count for tiebreakers and match breakers and all types of stuff. So in the final,
you have to win by 2 points.
Okay, all right,
Two points. Yeah.
Okay, so that was the problem. So we kept going back, and in the final round, the guy who was with me was much better. He was like, when I would get knocked, he could sometimes fight off like the other two people. He sometimes lost those rounds, but he sometimes won them. And so in the last round, I knocked one of the people, and then he got knocked, and so it was me and one other guy left from the opposing team, but I knew that my teammate was better than I was. And I was like, if this is for the game, I don't want to be the guy, right, that it's all riding on. So I could hear the opposing team member somewhere near us, but I was like, I'm gonna take the risk and I'm gonna do a revive, and I'm just gonna risk that he's gonna come around the corner and catch us both. But I got my other teammate on his feet, then I got knocked, and then it was my teammate versus that other guy, and my teammate won. So I was like, that was incredibly exhilarating because I was like, if I hadn't gone for the revive, we might have lost that match. But those types of tactical situations are like really exhilarating in Apex Legends, and even though I started playing that game just getting my butt kicked and just constantly going out, and Apex Legends has one of the things that I don't like, which is idle time, which is like I don't like getting taken out of a match and then having to sit around and wait, which is why I don't play. I always want to say Rogue Spear, which is why I don't play Rainbow Six Siege, right? Because I hate getting out early and around and then just having to sit around and wait for everyone, particularly when you're not on comms with a bunch of randos. So, but Apex Legends, fairly rewarding. So I'm looking forward to going back and playing more. The only thing I saw that I consciously, kept up with from the Summer of Games that was in a similar genre was Modern Warfare 2. And of course, I mentioned, my feelings about that showing, as like I don't need that. I don't know that I need to see 7.5 minutes of the single player campaign. I mean, 7.5 minutes. That's literally like half the single player campaign. Like I don't know that I need to see that much. So I would have been much more interested to hear about kind of what multiplayer was going to be like, what initial maps were going to be like, if there were going to be any changes to the season structure, if there were going to be any changes to prestige, how stats were going to work, because um, it's a very small thing, but like in Cold War you could ping, but as far as I can tell in Vanguard you can't, which I guess kind of makes sense if Vanguard is supposed to give you that feeling of in an older period of war, but like things like that are changes how the launcher is going to work. Things like I stumbled across like the fact that you can play Call of Duty Cold War now, and that contributes XP towards your Vanguard Battle Pass. How they're going to work when they merge everything into like right now the merge is only a launcher merge. It's not really a code merge. If they are merging Modern Warfare 2 and Vanguard, if the engines are similar enough, what does that mean for Cold War? Is that one going to be or like there's other business mechanics that I'm very much more interested in than seeing 7.5 minutes of the single player campaign. And where I am now from a gaming perspective, there's a good chance this will be the first time I go into Call of War and do what everybody else does, which is not even bother playing the single player campaign, but just immediately start with the multiplayer. Particularly if the multiplayer is, as it has always been, is based on progression and prestige and seasonal, right? Like rather than lose a week or 2 weeks to dorking around with the single player campaign, I am highly likely to just get in there and start mixing it up in multiplayer so I can start my progression and unlocks right as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and I don't play Arena all too often. Every once in a while I'll play it, but that one still has a storm, right? It closes in on you as you're playing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. It sure does.
Okay. So I mean, I know you said that you're kind of surprised at the kind of largeness of the levels, but they kind of do shrink eventually. So, but though I think the one thing I struggle with that is that mode is like the gun, like which guns to to choose from, because obviously you get the points in between the rounds. You can buy the different guns and stuff like that. And I always seem to just like totally buy the wrong gun. I think I just have to learn the maps a little bit more. Is probably what it is.
Well, and that's the thing, and that's why I was saying, the reading was mandatory. It was not optional for me this time, because yeah, and I didn't talk about that before. There's a purchase mechanic that I guess is sort of like Counter Strike. I've never liked this mechanic, but I guess it's sort of like Counter Strike, and I guess maybe having become acclimated to this maybe makes it more reasonable for me to play a little Counter Strike maybe. Um, but yeah, but you start off the match with I think 600 um, in-game credits or whatever, and you can buy your weapons. And so I was looking things. And you buy your weapons, but you're automatically at default given a Mozambique or something as your backup weapon or something or other.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's the P2020, so it's just a pistol. Um, but you choose your weapon. You're not able to buy like a bunch of attachments and stuff, and then in later rounds you get more credits, and then you can buy the weapon with upgrades. You can always go in and change what scope you have, although in the first round I think you only have one option. So I typically go in and I typically get a maxed weapon. Different people take different approaches. They will get like just a bum, entry level weapon with the hopes of getting, a an upgrade drop or whatever, and getting, a purple weapon from there. But I typically upgrade to purple. One thing I've been doing bad is I typically go in and grab a bunch of health packs, and I don't know why I bother because engagements happen. Once you're in mid range, engagements and happen, and the enemy can close you so fast that I rarely ever get time to use a health pack. You can only really use a
yeah,
health pack when you're out at long range. And I'm like, I load up four, and I'm like, you're only going to get a chance to use one of these at best. So I maybe need to shift to doing more grenades and more thermite, um, and then only take like one health pack and maybe a couple shield packs. And there are containers on the level. There are obviously not as many as there are on the Battle Royale mode, but there is a container typically on each side of the map that has, three or four shield packs in it, plus a large health pack. So that might be another way to approach it. But yeah, I definitely need to, like, mix up some part of the loadout for its tactical implications. But yeah, but that's why it's absolutely necessary for me to read, because they present you so many options and weapons, and I'm like, you're 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 too likely to, well, yeah, if you haven't read it all, just like you said, you're just gonna pick a weapon at random and just have like no idea. Like I was arming myself with a Havoc, right, which has, I think it's either the Havoc or the Hemlock. I think it's the Havoc, which is a is an okay weapon, but it has a spin time. It's very much like a fusion rifle in Destiny 2. It has a spin up
yeah,
time until you arm like the throttling attachment or something like that eliminates the spool up time. But like I'm running around with that thing and I'm like, why is this thing not firing? Right? So yeah, you just have to do, some reading and get up to like the basics. But then it becomes more manageable. I don't know, man. That was a lot about Apex Legends. That was because
all right.
that was my main game. Let's go ahead and step over to talk about the news. The first thing on the news rundown tonight, you had an article about Xbox Cloud Gaming mouse and keyboard support.
Yeah, so at the recent, this is the X Fest 22, which I was confusing this with the Xbox Fan Fest, which I actually think they already had earlier in the year. But the X Fest is just like a developer only kind of a thing that they do, just having, developers come in and they have talks with them and, show them their wares, I guess, so to speak. But yeah, during this, one of the, they're talking with, oh man, I can't remember who it was now, but one of the Xcloud guys, and they're actually going to have keyboard and mouse support for the Xcloud, excuse me, system. Which before, if you're playing on PC, you're only able to use a controller right now. But soon now, they don't really say when here. I don't believe. I think they're just testing it still. So you'll be able to use keyboard and mouse on PC when you're going through XCloud. So that's a pretty good deal. The one thing they were talking about here though is uh, as part of the new input method, Microsoft announced plans to improve latency also because there's just latency um, moving into the new process, which is direct capture to stream games, which will allow them to use, you'll be able to use a keyboard and mouse. But with this new method, it might cut down it might do this at expense of the visual fidelity. So you'll get the keyboard and mouse and faster input time, but you might suffer on the graphics a little bit. But they said they're working on that to try to get that maxed out or a little bit better, along with the keyboard and mouse support. So that was interesting. I didn't even realize that you could even use, because I mean, usually if I'm I'm using the Xcloud, and I think I've only done it a couple times on PC actually. I would usually just have my controller plugged in anyways, just because I'm just for Xbox games. I'm kind of used to that. I haven't really played any of the kind of the true like PC games. So, and I think with if it's actually on the PC side, it's fine. You can do that all right. But if it's anything just through the XCloud, if it's just XCloud gaming, then you'll be able to use the keyboard and mouse. So I thought that was kind of cool that they're doing that now at least. But I mean, I guess some people might think it was like, wow, why didn't they just have that before? But it's the new system, new software that they're new technology they're working with. So it's probably just easier for them to say, hey, let's just do controller for now. Obviously, because it's kind of the Xbox ecosystem. So and then they're going to go forward through that. So and then also they mentioned in the article too that on the Samsung TVs that we'll be getting XCloud soon, at least for the 2022 TVs. I actually did a little bit of research on that, and I guess they're going to try to get the app, the Xbox XCloud app on older TVs because I have an older Samsung TV. I think I got it last year, but it was like a 2020 TV, I believe. So hopefully they'll be able to put it on that version of the TV. I can kind of play it through there because right now I can sync a Bluetooth keyboard, or I'm sorry, Bluetooth controller to that TV if I wanted to, and I actually did. I actually synced one of my Xbox. I think it was one of the older ones actually. It wasn't one of the newer Xbox controllers, but it was able to connect fine. So hopefully they can get that going on the older TVs eventually. So, but for now, you got the keyboard and mouse on XCloud on the PC. So that'd be cool.
Yeah, the only valid critique I think people could make is you could make a critique that it wasn't great them having that support there from the beginning or earlier because Stadia has had it since it rolled out. So when I played Stadia on PC, I used to use mouse and keyboard, which was really good. Did you see or anything or hear anything in that presentation where they talked about mouse and keyboard being usable on tablets or on mobile?
No, they didn't mention anything there, or even in this article that I had as from IGN. But yeah, I was kind of wondering about that too. That'd be kind of interesting, I guess. Although I don't. I guess you could I guess you could do a Bluetooth, right? If you wanted to, I suppose.
Or a lot of tablets have an integrated tablet that connects over a magnetic clip interface, like the iPads or I think the Samsung Galaxy Tab, their higher model S series also does the same. I don't have the proprietary Samsung case for my S7 because it's ridiculously expensive. But again, I can't remember if anybody can connect over that magnetic interface other than Samsung. But on an iPad, both the Apple keyboard for the iPad connects over that magnetic interface as well as Logitech keyboards. So I think that's just a spec that anybody can use to attach. But yeah, and then the same difference, right? And then anybody who connects a magnetic keyboard, if you have a large form factor tablet, that would be great, especially for shooters.
Yeah.
I mean, you can. Well, I haven't tried it on Call of Duty. On Call of Duty Mobile, I use controller, and that's enough of an advantage over people using touchscreen. I typically go like 30-something kills in a Call of Duty Mobile match, so I haven't felt the need to escalate that mouse and keyboard. But yeah, so that would be interesting. Well, cool. And then the Samsung TVs. Yeah, I mean, that app should be feasible. I mean, I don't know that you need any great compute resources or anything. Same thing though. I would be curious if you could connect a Bluetooth mouse and keyboard that way, because that would definitely be on a large screen TV something where I would like to. If I were playing Halo or something over Xbox Cloud Gaming, I would definitely love to be able to use a mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, the only thing I was just thinking about with the controllers when you're pairing it to like an older TV, maybe it doesn't support like a newer version, but would that just be software they can update it with, or like of like the Bluetooth?
That would be software? If they were using an older version of the Bluetooth protocol, which I think they've had like 1.1, 2, 3, and 4, and then I think the most recent version is Bluetooth 4.0, which is their LE variant. Which I don't know that controllers would use the LE variant, since they would want to blast as much possible energy down that path to maintain low latency and connectivity. So it may not be that much of an issue. But I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is I don't know how much older Samsung TV. Like, I bought mine in 2017 when the Xbox One Scorpio came out, and I'm pretty sure that it supports a Bluetooth connection. So I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
I don't I don't know that too many people would have Samsung TVs of any note, older than that, where they would have a
Yeah.
reasonable expectation for it to be able to support cloud gaming.
Yes.
All right, so our next news story is Bungie suing person responsible for multiple fraudulent Destiny 2 dmca takedowns. This story over on VG 24/7. Bungie is suing the person behind several bogus Destiny 2 DMC takedowns. March 2022 saw Bungie and various YouTubers hit with a DMC takedown. At the time, it wasn't clear who was issuing the takedowns, but Bungie eventually found out who the malefactor was and has filed a lawsuit. So, this is a tale of revenge gone sour. Um, this was a YouTuber who I guess played Destiny 2 and was hit with a takedown notice by Bungie. He then went underground and laid low digitally, so to speak, and then cropped back up and created an email address similar to the one Bungie uses to issue its own takedowns. And then when he was discovered that time, when Bungie had CSC send DMC takedowns for his second infringement and other infringing videos on his channel, Miner acted. So the individual's name is Nicholas Miner. He registered a second fake CSC email address and began to send out a wave of fraudulent takedown notices. So I think when he created the first fake takedown address, he just kind of issued a small number of takedowns. But then when he did it the second time, I guess having proven his proof of concept, he sent out a bow wave. And that caused Bungie's own videos to be taken down, videos of other prominent YouTubers to be taken down, which is really, I think the thing that feels most traitorous is your fellow peers who are on YouTube, trying to make a living, right? Because they're monetizing their channels, and are highly dependent probably on how each of those videos perform and those live streams perform, are now impacted because you have a beef with Bungie. And so Bungie found all this out, and they are going after him, having filed a lawsuit of uh, statutory damages of 150 grand for each of the fraudulent takedown notice videos, and then the total is $7.7 million. So, needless to say, this is probably an individual that probably can't pay $7.7 million, so they are likely to be effectively wiped out if Bungie is given a satisfactory judgment. Um, and so, lesson learned from that, folks, is don't poke giants. It's not worth it. Like, you get bent out of shape because a company that owns an IP issues a takedown notice to you for a video. Commensurate response. That seems to be a thing that I don't know if kids are taught that in their high school civics classes anymore. But growing up in the Cold War, we were told, when we were talking about the possibilities of nuclear war, we were taught about mutually assured destruction, and we were taught about commensurate response. And we were told, when countries have a conflict, that what is acceptable in diplomatic means is that your response should not be more extreme than the offense that was given, right? Commensurate. And so if you are issued a takedown notice for one video or two videos, commensurate response is not creating a fake Gmail account and issuing 100 takedown videos against the person who actually owns the IP. So I don't know. Maybe we need some round turns taken on high school civics classes to help sort that out. Any comments or questions on that one, Tal?
No, I mean it's pretty straightforward. Like he was in the wrong, so yeah, I
All right.
mean he's pretty much getting what he gets, I guess.
All right, you want to talk to us about the upcoming changes in how the world is going to shift upon the release and launch of Overwatch 2,
Yeah, so I was a little,
which is coming to the Switch, I believe I understand now. It's
yeah,
free to
so I was a
play.
little surprised. Yeah, I was surprised about this one. I think you had posted this first, the first article here from actually it's from Nintendo.com. Just kind of having the release date for it, which was August 4th, and I know they had mentioned August 4th earlier. Actually, might have
Well,
just been like a month.
October 4th, right?
I'm sorry, October 4th. Sorry,
Yep, sorry.
October 4th. Yes, you're correct. For Overwatch 2, and I thought they had mentioned this like a month or so ago, maybe a couple months ago, and I thought it was only supposed to be a beta, but this is on Nintendo site. It's saying it's Overwatch 2's releases on October 4th, so free for everyone. Yeah, it's a free to play game now, or will be, I should say. Um, and it kind of like companion story I had here also, and this is from IGN. But when it does release on October 4th, it's actually going to it's going to take over just Overwatch in general. So you won't be able to play like the original Overwatch anymore. Which I was like, okay, well, why? So I mean that happens like in some other games and stuff. But I guess the big deal here is back when Overwatch 2 was originally announced, and they were going through all what it's going to have, but they actually said, and this is coming from game director or then game director Jeff Kaplan. He said it was a shared multiplayer environment where no one gets left behind. So basically, you'd be able to still play the old Overwatch, and when the new one comes out, you could play that. Now it's not the case anymore because when October 4th comes, over the original Overwatch is just gone. Like you won't be able to play it anymore. What I guess kind of makes sense because and this is another thing I didn't realize. So the Overwatch now is 6-on-6, 6v6, but now this in the Overwatch 2, they're dropping one player, so you're only going to have 5 versus 5. So I mean, I guess I shouldn't say I guess that kind of makes sense because I mean, you have other games where there's different you have solos and duos and stuff like that. I don't know if it's just because this the way this game is made. Maybe they didn't want to do that, or what the thought process was behind it, or why they were going to get rid of that extra person on each side. But
Well,
that's
I think part of it is just compute, right? Just because what they've had to do over the life cycle of Overwatch is they've had to instantiate, and I'm gonna fumble through this. Overwatch stands who like live, eat, and breathe Overwatch. I'm sure know this like the back of their hand. I am not a big Overwatch player, so I've observed it casually from the perimeter. But what they have had to introduce over time is because so many people would only play like the DPS characters, and people wouldn't play healers, and people wouldn't play tanks. They instantiated some rules. I don't know if these are in certain particular modes and if you have an option to not engage in them, but or maybe they made it universal. I don't know, but they did have to create spaces where um, matchmaking is made by a declaration of classes. And so basically, they put a stranglehold on people like doing nothing but playing DPS. Um, because if if you declare for DPS and there's a crap ton of people playing DPS, you're not going to get match made, right? It's going to be more difficult for you to get match made, right? Because the DPS queue is full. And so if you want to get into matches, right, more quickly, you are benefited by playing a healer or a tank. So that becomes exponentially difficult when it's 6 characters per side versus 5, right? The compute goes down by a significant amount. So my guess is that like at least that was part of the reasoning for it.
oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've played it like within the last year, and I was playing it for a good amount, like for like a couple months, and I was just it was what it was at that time. So I didn't know the history of that. So yeah, that makes sense then, I guess. So along with the launch, or on that, I guess what they call in season 1 on October 4th, you get 3 new heroes. 2 of them which they've announced, and then the third one hasn't been announced yet. I don't know if they're gonna announce that before the game comes out or not. I don't know if they've really said. You get 5 new maps, and I'm assuming all the other maps are going to be still in there. I would assume. I'm not sure what the original had right now. And then you get a new mode called Push, which um, don't remember if they've even kind of expanded on that yet. And then, well, on this Nintendo site, they kind of had the roadmap here, so that's what I'm reading from. And then December 9th, Season 2 starts with the new hero, new tank hero, new maps, 30 new skins, and then a mythic skin. So I don't know if that's within the battle pass or if that's just a mythic skin you'll be able to buy. And then they kind of have 2023 and onward. You'll just get new heroes and maps pretty much probably every season, I would assume. Hundreds of new skins, and then PvE begins next year, which was the other big thing about Overwatch 2 is they're actually going to have a PvE mode. So that's really interesting. I'd like to check that out when it comes out. So yeah, but like I said, I was just kind of surprised about this was like the official release of Overwatch 2. So it'll be interesting to see, what the community, how the community adjusts to that, I guess, or what's going to happen with there. And I'm assuming, I don't know, well, they didn't say that in the Nintendo article, but even in the IGN article, I thought I saw it somewhere. Maybe it was in this article where I guess people will still keep their old skins, I believe, if I remember correctly, from the previous game, at least, I think. So I guess that's something, hopefully, because I'm sure they're going to get an earful if the skins aren't able to be carried over. So any other thoughts on that?
No, it'll be interesting to see how they handle it. One of the things I talked about with when the new consoles were coming out was with, well, even before the new consoles, right? Cross-play, cross-progression. I forget what Microsoft's term is for their, pay once, play anywhere upgrade motif in their store.
Yeah, I don't remember what it's called.
I can't remember what it's called. They have some marketing or brand term for it.
Yeah, their own Xbox name.
Right. But, those things seem great in and of themselves, but what they really create is this air of peer pressure, right? Because it becomes super noticeable, right? And customers are hypersensitive and hyper acute to when one person's doing it and another person's not. And in some consumer bases, like the PlayStation consumer base, it doesn't make as big a deal because, there's an ongoing theme there that they like paying for games. And everybody's paying for games. I think a lot of that camp tries to use that as a negative, as if other people aren't. But one of the things is, Overwatch is going to do this, Overwatch 2 is going to do this, and then Modern Warfare is going to come right behind them with Activision is going to come right behind them with Warzone 2. And maybe it's been mentioned, and maybe I haven't dug into the literature, but I don't think it's been super transparent and super clear what's going to carry over from Warzone to Warzone 2. But I also suspect that this is going to be the same thing, that Warzone's going to be retired and you're just going to be able to play Warzone 2. I can't see an economy of scale or an efficiency where Activision would willfully maintain both of those as online service games. And so it now becomes, right, hypercritical and hypersensitive to, as far as, what's going to carry over. And it's going to be more so particularly if if Blizzard allows you to carry everything over with Overwatch, right? We kind of had this a little bit with Destiny and Destiny 2. It wound up just being kind of cosmetics, but it made an emotional connection, right, with your character as they carried over, which now, 5 years hence, I don't know that means a hill of beans, like, to anyone. But for these live service games where you've paid for some of that stuff potentially, it becomes more of a sensitive issue. So it'll just be interesting to see, if Blizzard kind of puts Activision kind of on the hot plate because they do something, particularly, that makes them seem like a great benefactor, whereas you pretty much know that whatever Activision chooses to do, that it's going to be pretty stingy. So it'll just be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I wonder how much of a negative or positive it is to, like, say if they like wipe out the skins, because the skins in Overwatch are it's like a full body skin. It's not like in Fortnite or some of the other games where you can actually kind of piecemeal like the different parts, like pants and tops and hats and all this other stuff. It's just like a one big skin. So I don't know how much that plays into it too, of whether they want to keep, if they can keep them or not.
Yeah, that's a good point. The Microsoft thing is called smart delivery. That's what the marketing term that I forget.
Yeah. Okay.
So our next story is about good old Sonic, who has been experiencing a boon swell in the movie theater, but maybe not so good on the gaming front. Sonic Origins developer very unhappy with finished product, blames Sega. This story over at Polygon. One of the developers Sega hired to work on Sonic Origins all but disowned the finished product in a Twitter thread posted in the evening of the game's launch day. Simon Thomley, a developer for Headcanon, acknowledged that there were quote, issues in what we gave to Sega, but added that Sega's developers added that what Sega's developers did with that code afterwards, quote, introduced some wild bugs, end quote, that they're getting blamed for. Headcanon assisted primarily on the remaster of 1994 Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles. So this article goes on to talk about basically that, Headcanon was hired to do some of this work because of approvals and check-ins in terms of, when they have to get stuff to the store. Headcanon was not given the time to address some bugs that they wanted to address or do maybe some additional polish. Sonic Origins, the article says, is an anthology comprising of remasters of the first 4 Sonic the Hedgehog games: Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Sonic CD, and Sonic 3 and Knuckles. A day into its launch, it already has a poor performance reputation, with fans and some reviewers calling out glitches and AI errors. Yet others have said they haven't encountered the same kind of problems. Thomley goes on to say, my beef is not necessarily with Sega. I haven't cut them off. I'm willing to do more work under the right conditions. The company has asked Sega, if they can come back and provide a patch after the fact. So this game launched on June 23rd. The article says for Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Windows, PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X. And then Sega, in late May, began removing the original versions of some of the Sonic Origins games from digital storefronts in preparations for the anthology's launch. And so, this is kind of the Rockstar problem all over again, right? New set of remasters is coming out, and so the publisher pulls the versions of the remasters that are currently on the market, and then the new thing shows up, and it is not good. It, in fact, in many cases, does not play as well as the versions that they pulled. And now they're getting heat, and Sega's applying that heat to Headcanon, which was kind of the same thing Rockstar was doing to, I can't remember the name of the mobile game developer that had done the GTA remasters. So, lots of different feelings about this. Number one, kind of in similar vein to the way I have problems with Jason Schreier, we know that the development industry is highly nomadic. People move around. You work a project, right, and then you move on and you go to another thing. That is generally, right, the model for developers, right? A huge amount of developers on board onto a program that are either kind of freelance or contract for hire. They don't get hired. They get let go after the game approaches release or after the game releases, because the development team is going to go back down to kind of the size that's needed for O&M, not for full-time development. I have a problem when developers like that get interviewed, because a lot of them are bitter. They're going to have a bias to their experience. I don't know that a lot of developers who are going to get interviewed are going to have anything positive to say about the company that they just left or just got done working a project for, because so-called gaming journalists are not going to go after the people who have positive feedback. They're only going to go after the people that have negative feedback in order to make their in order to make their articles. So you wind up getting a lopsided presentation of what happened on the project. by the same token, Sega needs to own their relationship with their subcontractor. Um, much in the same way, we've seen the problems with Square Enix, where, they claimed that, Outriders hadn't financially performed the way it needed to, but yet there are lots of fans that are very positive about Outriders. Um, and yet, I was going to call them Panic at the Disco, where the People Can Fly, the developer from Poland, as far as we know, hasn't seen any money, right, from their development work on Outriders, or at least not a significant amount, and at least not any money and definitely not any money that would have been structured under any kind of bonus arrangement. So, you have problems like this between publishers granting IP to some of these smaller firms to work on stuff, and the smaller firms kind of being taken advantage of. So it's unfortunate. It's always unfortunate in the way schedules run. It's always unfortunate when schedules have to be cut off, and so scope and level of effort that winds up not being executed. But to me, this is Sega's bread and butter, right? Sonic is, and they have now a long history of not doing well with Sonic, right? Um, they kind of did great with Sonic during the Genesis era, and it's pretty much been a PR nightmare, right, for every generation since then. So I don't really know what they're going to do with this, other than like the right thing to do would be to turn headcanon back on, right, to have them fix the game regardless of what the cost is, right, in order to save Sega's reputation. I don't know. Any thoughts?
Yeah, it just seems kind of concerning that this. I don't say this is like a huge game or anything. Obviously, these are just remasters, but this is the second time, like you said, this is the second time we're seeing this now. The first time from that was the Grove Street Games, was the GTA trilogy developers. But yeah, I mean, you just never know, like, who's like the one side saying something, and then the others, the other side's gonna say another thing. So it's like, all right, who's telling the truth here? Like, guys, like, what's going on? But I mean, it just kind of seems like it just keeps happening, and maybe it is, the fault on the publisher, because it just keeps going on, and they're just. I mean, I guess I can get it business wise. Like, yeah, you want to get the product out, and you obviously want to make the money, but I mean, you also have, you want to have something decent, at least decent out there, that's going to perform well. And it's just, it's just horrible things happen. There's bugs, and obviously we saw what happened with GTA. It was just terrible performances on some of the systems, and it's just, I don't know. It's just, I hope, you know you would hope that people would learn from this, but obviously it just kind of keeps happening. And this goes even not just with the remasters too, just which is game development or just anything really in general. Just if you're just gonna kind of rush it out and get it out there, or not take the time to at least try to thoroughly vet it. And like, these are like remasters. It's not, uh, these aren't like huge 3D open world games or anything like that. Like, I don't know why they couldn't just let them squash all the bugs as much as they could. So it's just kind of weird. It just kind of some of the weird. When I was looking through the article, there's like AI problems with some of them, with some of the games, and just other things that were just, you would think should just be fine. I mean, but stuff happens, I guess. So uh, hopefully everything can get sorted out, and they can fix it, or someone can fix it, even if it's not headcanon.
Yeah, it creates an interesting set of business decisions to make, because what care and feeding do you show to a remaster versus new IP, right? Do you take the risk of a remaster is probably never going to sell as well as a new IP game, particularly in the AAA space. Um, so if a remaster or remake, whatever, has problems, um, do you just let that go, right? Because the negative financial impact probably isn't going to be as big. However, I would contend that a larger part of your reputation is maybe staked on that older IP, and so do you pump the brakes, right, and hold it off? It seems like you mentioned, right, the trend is remakes and remasters I would more firmly say remasters, are not as subject to delays because the publishers aren't holding them back. Because if the things come out and are problematic, that seems to be a bucket of content type that they are okay taking the hit on and fixing it after the fact. Um, but these huge walkbacks like Rockstar had to make, um, like CD Projekt Red is having to make now. Granted, their walkback on the Witcher 3 upgrade or next gen version or whatever was driven by the war in Ukraine and not necessarily, due to quality problems with the release. But still, I mean, the point is, it's a number of things that are not of insignificant financial impact. So it'll be interesting to see how this trend continues. Our final news story on the docket is Ubisoft Summer Sale is live. This just being a bit of consumer news to give everybody a heads up on, because every once in a while when we see sales come across the windshield, we want to make sure we help get the word out. This article over on GameSpot, I'm not going to do a ton of color commentary on it. Ubisoft has a sale, like just about everybody does right now over the summer. The Ubisoft sale is live until July 6th, and so this is a good time to pick up some Ubisoft titles that you've been interested in the walk up to Independence Day. If you need something, if you're not going out of town, going on travel, going to barbecue, just hanging out. I used to do this quite a bit when I was single. I used to have my bucket of 3-day weekend games. This would be a good time to stock up. Ubisoft is offering 20% on most of its merch when you use promo code SWEET20 if you do want to buy merch. But the game titles, some of them are significant increases. There's a whole Assassin's Creed Mythology pack, which includes Valhalla, Origins, and Odyssey, which usually goes for $160. It is now down to $48 for all three. If you're just buying one of those titles, at least Valhalla is down to $24. So there are some significant slashes here. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag is down to $7. The Division 2 is down to $9, which actually has new content that is supposed to be getting delivered. Don't make your purchasing decision on the promise of new content coming in for the Division 2. Consider yourself lucky if that actually arrives. However, the Division 2 for $9 is not a bad sale. There's a ton of adventuring content if you're into that kind of looter shooter, third-person action adventure type of game. I personally think it was a great game. I spent over 50 hours in it. You could probably easily spend more if you're looking to do a lot of co-op, and it does have co-op. So Far Cry 5 and 6, Far Cry 5 was one of my favorite games, is $12. Far Cry 6 is $24. And they got a bunch of other stuff here. Riders Republic, which I think was one of your games that you liked, is $24.
I was going to recommend that one.
Yep.
It's a good one.
And Watch Dogs Legion, which kind of landed with a bit of a thud. Not because it was a horrible game, but just because it didn't really live up to its potential. It's available now for $15. So if you want to get some of that server-side, cloud-assisted compute for all of the complexities of the world that it allows you to participate in, you can now onboard into that for $15. Immortals Phoenix Rising, which has a really good reputation, is down to $33. So that was the week in gaming news. Rounding up our gameplay reports, I'm going to talk a little bit about Halo Infinite. So I've been continuing to play that. I am up to level 90-something in the Season 1 Battle Pass, which I didn't really play during Season 1. I kind of onboarded and kind of tried it out, but I was off to do other things. But I kind of came back, not being a historic Halo player. I found a love for the game mechanics here just in the days prior to the drop of Season 2. And so I was insistent that I do, all the Season 1 content as much as I could. The event-driven stuff in the Samurai armor is no longer available. But I wanted to make sure that I got everything else. So, like I said, I'm up to level 92 or 93 in the Season 1 Battle Pass. I now have, the EVA helmet with, the skull tattoo painted on the on the thing, and I've got the flaming arms. So I'm getting up into sweaty land with the skins and stuff that I have. My where I'm getting pulled for skill based matchmaking is, it's getting super thick. Every match I'm going in now is just down to the wire. I lost some very close ones. Lost a Team Slayer match 49-50 today. Have participated in some matches where I've had more where I've been on the side that had to make a significant comeback and won those matches. But I've also had a few where we've had a significant lead and the other team has come back. So where I'm getting pulled now, everybody is super competitive and it's super close. And there's a lot of people at parity at that skill level. Um, I have returned to mouse and keyboard. I spent my time on controller, but at the gaming station I was just playing at, I just changed that mouse and keyboard. There was an old Corsair set of gear there that I'd kind of temporarily put in place because I've just kind of had it with Razer and their horrible software. I had a headset get bricked because of a firmware update from Razer, and I've had numerous problems with Razer software throughout the last year, and I've just said I'm done. I'm currently in the mode of getting rid of every piece of Razer gear that I have, and so
Can I stop for a second?
yeah.
Did you say you got a headset bricked?
Yep. Yep.
Like you can't use it anymore?
Yep.
That's a wireless one, I'm assuming.
Yes. Yeah. So it does a firmware update. It has to do a firmware update to the dongle, and then you have to take the headset and plug it directly into the PC over USB. And that firmware update failed. Now I say it's bricked. I haven't bothered to go back and try it. But even if it still works, it still needs a firmware update. And right, am I
Yeah,
going to just keep it around hoping that the next firmware update, right? Like, no. And this is
works. Yeah.
this is like the Razer software has been a bane of my existence for a couple of years. It stinking constantly updates. It's constantly asking you to install Cortex, which is their live streaming tool set, which I don't have any interest in. Um, when the PC starts, it immediately goes into this upgrade cycle. It does the old goofy kind of PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4 thing of like giving you the head fake where it says, you know, let me download the update. Now let me install the update. Now let me install the update to the update, right? So it goes through a bunch of gymnastics. And I typically have like my keyboard, mouse, and headset. I typically let that tool auto start on PC startup, so I get hit with this every single time. And I've just had it. I had when I was doing a PC build earlier this year, I was having problems installing the Razer software. There was like a C++ redistributable that it wasn't downloading. Like it's just constantly a problem. And because I review these things, I get an opportunity to see Corsair, SteelSeries, Razer, Logitech, right? I've seen Logitech's like software radically improve over the last few years, where it used to be problematic. But I just see enough of this stuff that I can rank them, and when Razer is clearly the bottom of the barrel, like it's just testing my patience to a point, my tolerance to a point where I can't deal with it anymore. So, um, so normally I refresh mouse, keyboard, headsets, and peripherals and stuff over the summer to do kind of a year's worth of long-term reviews. And so I recently upgraded that gaming station to a mouse and keyboard from Cooler Master, actually, which doesn't sound like a name that's very big in the computer PC gaming peripheral space. But they actually do some really great peripherals. I'm really impressed by the touch and feel of the keyboard. I really like the mouse. And their software is dead simple. Like a lot of these software packages, including Corsair's, right, and Corsair HyperX. HyperX isn't as bad, but Corsair and Logitech, they do a ton of things that I'm like, I don't know that gamers use. Like, I don't know that I need 30 different lighting profiles, right, for a keyboard. Like, maybe 10 is enough. And then the other thing they tend not to do is they tend not to sometimes they do, but it's like buried really deep in the tech documentation. They tend not to give you a way to set your um, the lighting scheme in hardware, right? It's like you have to go through the software versus like Red Dragon keyboards. I think now there's software you can download, but there's a series of function keys that you can hit to change to alternate the lighting scheme, right? And so if the software is ever bad, you still have direct hardware control. Um, so Cooler Masters at least is very kind of simplistic and it's a relatively small number of lighting schemes and they're all kind of straightforward. Like again, like HyperX does this thing called confetti where it dithers like 12 different lights over like every single key on the keyboard and I'm like, I don't know that that's necessary, right? So just give me eight to 10 different solid colors, right? And let me like cycle them, right? And maybe give me a color cycle one, but like the breathing thing, like a lot of them have these patterns where the keys go dark, and I'm like, if I have the keys lit, it's because I need to see the keys. So please don't darken the keys, right? And granted, I mean, and I'm not a touch typist. I'm sure lots of other people are. It doesn't bug them as much, but it's just one of my little nits that bugs me. But the Cooler Master keyboard is great. I actually have a new Rocat keyboard and mouse set over here. Both of them have these dial wheels that you can use to adjust either the volume or the brightness on the keys, which I really like. Um,
Cool.
and then over there, I've gone with a Steel Series headset. So I've had an opportunity to try all those out while I've been playing Halo Infinite. I didn't mention, back when I was talking about Apex Legends, I will also say um, it hasn't been consistent, but at least on a couple of occasions, I've played Apex Legends and actually seen it top out at like it's a 240 hertz monitor that I have over there, and I have actually seen that game pull over 200 frames per second. So I have some of those really super fast monitors at a couple other stations, and I don't see them approaching that. Right, I have the frame rate cap set that high just to let the GPU work as hard as it can. But Apex Legends has been the only game that I've seen hit that number of frames. But Halo Infinite has been great. I love the mechanics. The games have been getting stronger. Um, we're just obviously now just waiting for more content. I have not hit the point where I've been wrapped around the axle about the battle pass or content. But because I am a map person, what I would like to see more than anything is more maps. For I would like to see more maps, and I would like to not have them imprisoned right behind mode walls. Meaning, don't give me a new map, but then tell me you can only play on this map in a certain weird, funky mode. Right? Just put new maps in there and make the maps unilaterally available, right, in all the different modes. At least for small teams, at least for the 4v4. Right? If you want to include maps that are only big team battle maps and modes, I'm completely fine with that. I'm completely fine with like the last man standing when they only made the maps available for that mode. That's fine. But when you put maps into 4v4, just make them available right for all modes. So, all right, man, you want to talk to us about Fall Guys?
Yes. So, Fall Guys has come out this past week for everything now. It's on, obviously, it was on PC and PlayStation before, but now it's on Switch and Xbox, and I've been playing on them both. And I think it's probably like the perfect game for the Switch. Actually, it's like I just sit there. I was playing in bed a couple times last week, and just sitting there, I play like 3, 4, 5 games maybe, and it's like, all right, I'm done, I'm good. So just those quick matches. But yeah, I did have it on the PC before I had bought it. Steam a while ago. It was on sale or whatever. But it was kind of nice that it's free to play now, and I can play it on all these other systems. And I actually finally got my first win on the Switch version. So, or the Switch, I should say. I shouldn't say the Switch version. There's nothing different about the version. So, I finally got my first crown. That's what you get. You're vying for the crown at the end of the TV show, as it is. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it. They've got some. The only problem I have, and I saw this even when I was playing on PC, like it always seems to get stuck on like the same like like 4 to 5 maps like on each round. So and I know they have like a ton of maps, because they've the last couple of years that they've released. But it always and maybe it's just because it's the new season, and obviously they want to showcase these new maps. But it's like, all right, guys, I get it. Like I've seen this map now like 5, 6, a dozen times now already. Like can we get some of the old ones in there every once in a while or something? So I don't know how that. I'm assuming that's what they're trying to do. Like they're just trying to get the new maps in there as much as possible. But I would like a little bit more variety. At least maybe now after this first week they'll start. Yeah, like I said, I don't know how that goes exactly, but maybe after the first week now they'll start throwing some of the older ones in there, or maybe it's just like after you played it, so much or so many times they'll start throwing it in. It'd be interesting to see how they do that. Speaking of maps, as you're speaking about the Halo Infinite maps, and kind of going back on Halo Infinite and all these other games, like I hate when they do like, oh hey, we got 20 maps, and then you kind of go into the details, and then they're like, oh well, parted out into different modes and stuff like that, and it's just kind of annoying. It's like, come on, man. They do that a lot with Call of Duty too. Like, oh yeah, we got like 6 new maps coming out, and it's just like maybe 1 or 2 at the most that are in the modes that I like to play. Like just regular head to head or solo matches. So it's like, come on, man. But no, I've been having a lot of fun. I like this game. It's just like a kind of goofy, almost like a Wipeout style kind of a game. Although in the first couple, maybe there's 5 rounds altogether. Maybe the first 2, you can fall off the map and you'll be fine. You just kind of respawn and start where there's checkpoints during the matches or during the maps. So you kind of just spawn back on that point, so you can keep going. So that's nice. But then after those rounds, then it's like kind of once you fall, or whatever's happening on the map at that point. You're kind of done for that session. So, but it's I haven't had any chance to play with anybody yet on the Switch or Xbox. I've just been playing solo. I think I might have played one or 2 squad matches, but I don't. And I gotta read up on it because I'm not really sure how the squad matches work. Like I don't know if like 1 or 2 people make it on your squad. Like you like like if you fall like later on in the rounds but your squad make it and they win. I don't know if that makes you have the win too or not, because like I just haven't found that out yet. But it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. So and then they've been throwing. I think they have some like LTMs and limited time modes every so often, because I've seen like 2 different modes kind of come and go just in this first week. So so it's cool. So yeah, enjoyed it, and as usual, I like these kind of games. They're kind of good, goofy. So any questions or comments on Fall Guys?
Now, I guess one question: is it crossplay?
Yes, it is crossplay. Yep, crossplay
So,
between
so on
I believe all systems.
okay, so yeah, because that's what I want to ask. Because on Fortnite, Switch players get pooled with mobile players, which is always very advantageous. I did like when I had my Switch and I was trying to learn how to play Fortnite. I liked pooling with mobile players and having a tactical advantage. But I've seen PC gamers cheating in Fallout. There's already hacks out that like will cause people to not fall off of
Yeah,
like just walk over air, right? Um, so I did want to ask, do you know whether or not Switch players are being pulled with PC gamers as well, and have you seen any of the hacks?
I don't. Yeah, I don't know if any of the console players get pulled with PC, but I know like one of the first things they tell you, like when you boot into the game, well, at least initially, just on the very first time you start the game, like if you've never played it, it does tell you you can turn off the cross progress or the cross platform play. So I'm assuming you probably do, if that's like a big deal that they even put that in there, because they don't usually. I'd never usually see them say, hey, you could turn this off if you want to, or it's like some little corner screen with like 2 font size that you can't unless you paid attention, you're not going to see. So I got to think you probably do. I'll look it up too.
Or
Before
they
I
give you
show you.
or they give you a bit of carrot and stick. Like Call of Duty tells you can turn it off, but then they say, but you will cycle into matchmaking like at a slower rate and spend more time waiting, right? And
Yeah,
highly recommend you leave crossplay enabled, right, to facilitate matchmaking as quickly as possible or whatever.
yeah, yeah. I'm trying to look real quick.
And the,
But while I'm looking.
And
Go
the other
ahead.
thing, on Call of Duty, I don't. If you turn off crossplay, I also don't think that there's a way for you to just turn off PC crossplay. So if you turn off crossplay, you're going to wind up only playing
Everybody.
right with people on one platform on another. I'm guessing that that platform allows you to play with other players on different hardware, right? Meaning, PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 players can play together probably if you turn off crossplay. But I don't know that for absolute certain. I
Yeah,
just
and it. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure you can't, just say I just don't want the PC gamers in here.
Yeah, I'm looking at a couple articles really quick, and they don't really say if the consoles are excluded from PC. So I think it's just everyone. Um, but plus, it is cross progression since it's using just your Epic account since they're owned by Epic. So you get everything. All the skins and stuff if you have on PC. I think I had a few skins and a few skins from Twitch, Twitch Prime, or yeah, Twitch Prime that I had picked up,
Wait,
and those carried over.
so did Epic buy the Fall Guys too? I knew they bought the Rocket League guys, but they bought the Fall
Yeah,
Guys too.
I had actually forgot about that. They had bought them, I think, a while ago.
Oh
Well,
wow.
not like super long ago, but yeah, they had bought them too. Yeah.
Huh.
So they got Rocket League, Fall Guys. They're picking up all those kind of party type games, or stuff that's popular. So, but yeah, so all that's there. So yeah, you can sign in. You have to sign in, I should say, as your Epic account if you want that cross progression. So, which is nice. I like that. So. I know with some of the because they do have some like character models like they have like Jack Skellington. I know they have some games like I think like Hollow Knight or maybe what was that other one? Shovel Knight, I think it is. It's called. I've seen those kind of characters and they've had just other kind of TV and movies and stuff like that. So it is interesting because I know in Rocket League when they did that, some of the stuff did carry over. Like I had bought uh, the the DeLorean from Back to the Future, and I think on Xbox, and I think there was one other one, maybe Ghostbusters or like one of the Batman cars, and it didn't come over to the Switch when that when that happened when that acquisition happened initially. So I have to go back and see if that's fixed now because I know they said that we're going to try to get everything in there, but obviously there's like licensing and all
Yeah,
that stuff. So
that's what
not a big deal.
I remember that from when I was playing on Rocket League on multiple platforms, and yeah, that DC pack was like a specific licensing deal on one platform or the other, and so it didn't carry
Yeah.
over.
Yeah, so that's interesting. And then of course, and they did this in Fortnite too. So if you buy like, say, I bought like I don't know what they're called, the coins or whatever on in Fall Guy on like the Switch, that stays on the Switch. Like it doesn't carry over to like Xbox and PC, but the Battle Pass stuff does. The Battle Pass coins you get too. So
Yeah,
which is
Call of Duty is the same thing. Like when I was on consoles and playing on each one, my Call of Duty points were different, right, across PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. So yeah,
yeah.
that
But
seems
do you know why that would be? Because I don't know. I guess you
be,
could get like a discount on like other ones, maybe. But I mean, they don't go on like a super big, deep discount on.
because the valuation across each platform is different.
It's different. Okay.
And so you know, and because I suspect those financial systems aren't wired to cross cut like that, where you would because it's entirely feasible because
Because I'm
you could buy you could buy Call of Duty points on a platform where they were discounted, and that discount means something financially, right, in the transaction between Activision and PlayStation. It may mean that PlayStation covered the balance, or you know, or something, and so that has an inability to then cross over to Xbox, right? Because no platform's going to let another platform be advantaged, based on them expending their own resources. So
okay. I guess that makes sense. Yeah. And then finally, real quick, I jumped back into some VR this past weekend, and I played Legendary Tales. I picked that back up, which actually was good timing because I think I played that on Friday night with my one friend that I was usually playing with. So we were just going through it. Like we've gone through. We actually beat the boss that's in there before with like a third friend. But we just like the game. It's just awesome. It's physics based, so it's pretty cool. But and then I think it was yesterday he actually texted me, and they actually just and we hadn't heard anything from the developer from a long time, and they actually just put out a new announcement that they're still working on the game because I think at one point they actually said that they might kind of just stop after this past year after the last update they did. I think it was January February of this year, but that they're still going and they're going to have some kind of large update other than just doing like bug fixes and like patches and stuff throughout the year. They're going to do a fairly large update sometime later this year. So I was pretty excited. So there's got some new magic stuff and so right now, like when you're playing, it's kind of like the old, you're gonna get there's multiple guys, but they usually kind of come at you like one at a time, kind of like in the movies when you see that. But here, like the one guy near the end of the trailer, he like there's two skeletons sitting there, and one was attacking. He had to block him, and then the other guy was just attacking like right away too. So he was like blocking both of them, but like almost simultaneously. There was a bit of a delay, but it was actually pretty cool that they're kind of doing that kind of stuff. So and then there's some new characters and a little bit of tweaks on some of the older characters and just like different clothing or just like usually there's like skeleton and goblins and I think there's only maybe like one other kind of character you see other than the boss. But it looked like they were going to have a few more different types of characters, at least just visually, which is kind of nice. So it's not the same old skeleton and goblins that you kind of fight all the time. So that should be exciting once that comes back up. And then I played a little bit of. We also did a little bit of the VR. Was it VR All Star Poker or Poker All Stars, something like that? I was getting just virtual poker, and I think they have like slot. I know they have slots, and then I think roulette maybe they have in there too. I've never tried that, but we're doing a little bit of that, and just kind of there's some weird glitches that we had kind of going into it where for some reason like when we went into the game like you couldn't see your hands. So you see the rest of your body, you just couldn't see your hands. Problem is you have this wristwatch on your one wrist, and you have to use your hands to like click on it to get like the menu screen. So that was kind of a big deal. But we kind of looked online, and you just had to like go into like the Quest avatar customization menu, and then like just change like something in there, and then your hands came back, which is kind of weird because it uses your Quest avatar during the game. So it was just kind of weird that like that was like the thing. So once we did that, it was working fine. But it was kind of nice. I hadn't played. Last time I played VR was with my friend, like I don't know, like 2 or 3 months ago. So it was kind of nice to jump back into it and keep going. So that's pretty much all I've been playing, other than like Rocket League and Fortnite. I've kind of dabbled in here and there. Now Arc, of course, because I didn't want to put that in there again because we've been playing that pretty much for the last 2 months. So same old there.
All right, and the VR games you're playing on the Quest 2, right?
Yeah, and now I'm doing Legendary Tales is only I can only do it through the PC link. Or they have the wireless link too, but I haven't tried that out yet to see how well that works. But yeah, I have the cable plugged into my headset. So both of those, and then the poker All Star Poker. I could play that either with the PC link or not. But I usually just because I'm already plugged in, I was just using that. So most of the time I use the cable now just because the graphics are a little bit better. So it's kind of nicer.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I often said, have my Rift S and HTC 5, and I don't play them anymore. But you know, when the Quest came out, there were lots of media pundits who were like, "The future's untethered, the future's uncoupled," and I'm like, not for me. Like I value performance over right being able to walk around without the tether. And I'm like, I'll keep the wire connected if it lets me play. And of course, my a lot of my vectors in VR were playing kind of high end racing games and high end flight simulations, and I'm like, that stuff is always going to require a PC link when you want to play at high fidelity. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting to hear that you're going down the path of playing more PC link required stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice when I didn't need the cable, but I mean, yeah, once I popped in that cable, I was like, oh, like I played, I can't remember what I played. I think it might have been the Star Wars game, Vader Immortal, and I was like, oh wow, this looks like way better. So I was like, oh okay. And then just some of the other games I played too, just a lot cleaner. It kind of looked like they were kind of like I don't want to say muddy, but just like they were just kind of off. I was like, oh yeah, it's a lot better, especially with After the Fall. Also, I tried that both single or without the cable and with the cable, which is kind of like the Left 4 Dead. game, and that was like, well, yeah, the graphics are way better when I had the PC Link cable in there. So yeah, it's nice.
Very cool. That's good to hear. No PickZ. We haven't resolved what our assignment is going to be for next month. And admittedly, I was lazy tonight while I was rejiggering the agenda, and I was like, I don't feel like being bothered with that. We got a month before we have to report out on it, so we can take a few days to think about it. Next week, DBQ Hams will be back to host, I believe, is the what's on the plan, and hopefully he will be able to make it then. Tao, anything else to cover?
Just for like kind of coming up stuff, I just realized today, and actually I was playing a little bit before we started the show. Command and Conquer Remasters on EA Play, which is part of Game Pass. So I downloaded that and installed that, obviously, since I was playing it, and so I'll play more of that just because I don't think I ever played the original Command and Conquer. So it has Command and Conquer and then the Red Alert, Command and Conquer Red Alert. So I'll play that. I think I kind of jumped into Red Alert 2, and then what was it, Yuri's Revenge? I think was one of like the last expansions or like upgrades to that second game. So it'd be kind of interesting to come back and see this. It's kind of interesting too because like I started it, and they have the full motion video stuff, which is fine, and a little bit of like computer graphic stuff in there too, like cutscenes, and it's like, oh man, this looks rough. And then when like the actual game started, it starts off like sprite based because that's what it was at the time. It's like, wow, is this really what it's going to look like? But then you can like hit a button and you can switch between the two, and they, obviously they've updated the graphics. So I was like, oh, this looks awesome. So it's just kind of nice they have that feature in there too, just to see how it was and now how it is now.
Very cool. Yeah, I think I came in on Tiberium Wars, I think, and then played Red Alert or Red Alert 2. I can't remember what came after Tiberium Wars. So very cool. I will myself will be spooling back up into World of Tanks. Will be what I'll be playing going into next week. So the wonderful thing about going down this path with the types of games that I'm playing is I get to spend lots of time with all of the most toxic of communities. So the World Takes crowd I found is not as bad as the World of Warships crowd. That community is so toxic it actually turned me off to playing the game at all. Because I was. Like, playing co-op is fun, but I mean, obviously the key objective is to get into PvP, and like I just like those guys, and there's no way to turn I don't think there's any way to turn the text-based chat off. So, but I'm going down that path again. Maybe now that I have a bunch of these to spread the pain out amongst, no one of them will feel as acute, but we'll see. So that is going to do it for us. Again, no PickZ tonight. We will figure out what that is and probably talk about what the month's assignment is next week. So until next time, take care of yourselves. Stay safe out there. Play the games that you like. Come here to talk about the games that you love. Once again, my name has been Game Logic on the Rounding Off Affinity Gaming channel on YouTube, one of the co-hosts of the E2KG Network podcast. Enough to keep going. My co-host tonight has been Towmaster. Until next time, good night, good luck, and good gaming. That's going to do it for us. We're out of here.